Hi everybody, Dan Cunliffe here, Managing Director of Pangea, and I'm delighted to be joined by Roland, who's the Country Manager for Buddy Home. You may have seen in the press we've spoken a lot about our relationship in terms of the partnership between Buddy and Pangea, which actually began quite a few months ago in February, I think it was, of 2018. But spoke a lot about how we're going to move forward at Mobile World Congress and got to meet the guys. But thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Really
Thanks,
appreciate it. We won't talk about New Zealand versus England rugby, which happened recently. But what we will talk about is the Buddy and Pangea partnership, and particularly kind of what does that mean for each businesses. I mean, from my perspective, Pangea really focusing on IoT solutions, IoT connectivity, devices and analytics. We are super excited, but also delighted to be working with Buddy, who in sort of our world is more like those three things all come together. You know, being able to provide the building management solution and the kind of fully delivered piece is really important for our partner channel. But maybe from your side, a little bit about what Buddy sees as the partnership and the win there.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, our strategy here in the UK is twofold.
Yep.
The first component was to find really strong distributors that take care of logistics and installations. I'm pleased to say we've got a couple of really strong organisations in place to take care of that part. And the second part of the strategy was all about finding a small and focused set of resellers that could take this to market and build the sales and marketing arm for us. And Pangea absolutely fit into that second bucket. And what attracted us to Pangea is, look, you've got 150 plus high quality resellers in place that already sit in the IoT and communication space, many of which are already looking for products like this to help differentiate. As well as that, your product set's very complementary. You know, strong connectivity play, it's so strong that we actually use it in the product across UK and Europe. You've got your hardware element to what you do, and then you've got your end-to-end solutions arm where Buddy fits very nicely.
Absolutely.
So for us, it was a very good fit.
Yeah, and I think that's so true, being able to find places where it's complementary. I think both businesses really want to be able to continue doing what we do, you know, which is important, but also find places where partnerships, and particularly this one, can actually complement each other.
Great. So look, from our perspective, in terms of what we think we can bring to this partnership, we've got 7 years experience in the big data analytics side of things, and a very powerful cloud platform that we've built from scratch. And that kind of forms the foundation to Buddy Home, which has been our go-to-market product for the last 18 months, which is all about environmental measuring and monitoring to help companies become more efficient. So we bring a lot of experience in that space. But frankly, customers are less interested about the technology side of what we do, and far more interested in solving the issue of how they become more efficient and less wasteful in terms of their energy and utilities.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've always looked at it as a way like, you know, how do we bring better, simpler IoT solutions to our partner channel? We spoke about it a bit earlier, but one of the key things when we began this business was how do we make IoT a bit simpler? And I think people kind of got a little bit drawn into the 50 billion connected devices, which will come at some point. You know, we know that, but it's about how they talk to each other and what they're going to do. And I think when we first started talking with Buddy about how do we bring that to our channel, we kind of thought about it as, do you know what, this really makes a lot of sense. It's like buildings are within every one of our partners. You know, they sell various telecoms products, they sell various cloud products, but actually every one of those customers have a building. And so in order to take an IoT story of monitoring or just optimization of the IoT, it was a kind of perfect fit. And I think what we're trying to bring to that is make it very simple for our partners with a solution like yourselves as well. So one of the key reasons I think that people are starting to really get their heads around building management is that as things like Apple and other manufacturers have brought out fitness watches, you start to monitor more about your own well-being, and you learn more about what's going on, I guess, in your own personal life. Building management and with the Buddy solution has started to go down that route as far as we can see, and being able to, I suppose, learn about what are the things that make your personal life better in terms of fitness and in health. Why can't we take that to the building model? And I think that's been the way that we wanted to try and take it to our partners and make it very simple to understand. The Buddy solution does that very well. I think that's something that's probably worth kind of showing a bit from your side as well.
So yeah, just like the fitness watch that engages you around your health and your activity, we display that information in very engaging dashboards, so staff, guests, and people that use the building every day, and start to develop more of a relationship with the building that they use, and start to think about how their behaviours impact on the usage of that building. And that's something that we're very, very proud of, and as a differentiator of our product.
And I think it's the simplest way that I've seen, and one of the reasons why we partnered in order to be able to manage this going forward. It just makes it easy, because one of the things that you can consider is, as your business grows and you have more staff, it just becomes way more difficult to try and monitor and measure everything your staff do. So you bring systems in to do that. Now, why would people not do that when you've got multiple facets to a building? And being able to display that on a portal, being able to put that on dashboards, and right down to almost, I suppose, at a desk level, you can learn exactly what's happening with energy management. And I think that's one of the positives there.
So there's been legislation in place for a number of years now, which is the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme, or ESOS as it's known, and that's just entering into its phase 2, which will take us through to December 2019.
Right.
And this is in place for larger organisations of 250 employees or turnover of 36 million, and it asks them to produce verifiable data over a 12-month period to show that they've monitored their energy usage, that they've identified spikes and anomalies, and they've also identified opportunities to reduce spend. They don't actually have to reduce spend yet, but they have to show that they've found those opportunities to do so. And typically this also involves auditors coming to site to administer the overall process. Now, we believe Buddy and systems like Buddy can really help to automate that process and make the reporting of complying with that far, far easier.
So it's not about trying to, I suppose, scare people into that, but it is an important part. Energy management, carbon offsetting is actually a really, really big thing in today's society. It's become more and more important, and I think that with things like the ESOS, the ESOS, I think there is, as you're saying, there is a compliance side to it, but actually what is more important is I think that companies should be taking responsibility anyway.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point, and whilst it's not mandated into the smaller companies, what we're finding is lots of the smaller companies are just as keen to partake in going on this journey, because actually at the end of the day it also helps to reduce operating costs and helps them with their reputational side of things in their markets by doing the right thing and reducing environmental impact.
So where Pangea has worked very hard to bring IoT into our partner sector is, we mentioned before, kind of end-to-end solutions, or kind of taking our partners on that IoT connectivity journey. When you segment our base, Roland, one of the things that we found is that, especially our more telecom-centric partners, they sell into several sectors. Everything from sort of SME side, where you may be looking at people who are corner shops, right through to high-end corporates turning over billions of pounds. Basically because people need telecoms products. But again, being able to deliver a building management solution, something that is as simple to install as what Buddy is and really makes sense why you would do it, was very, very easy for us to bring in the portfolio. Maybe you want to tell the partners where they need to think about taking the solution forward and what sectors might be good for them.
Yeah, no, great question. I think that we see high-end SME through to mid-market and then large corporates, or got good traction in all those areas. Specific segments where we've had good traction thus far would be hospitality, hotels. We're also seeing good engagement in the manufacturing and industrial areas, schools, councils, and sports venues and entertainment venues as well. And if you think about some of those sectors, if you think about a hotel, for example, you've got kitchens, you've got bar areas, you've got laundry areas, you've got guest rooms, you've got guest comfort to think about. Very similar to an entertainment venue, and not dissimilar to a sports stadium as well. So it fits very, very well into those areas, and then that's where we've had the bulk of our success.
I think also when you consider those particular sectors, or even just those types of buildings in that sector, many of them are quite old buildings, and people don't want to do something that might affect that authenticity. One of the benefits of the solution is the kind of retrofitting into that piece. We spoke about sports stadiums, football stadiums not being built for that, but nowadays it's more like an entertainment hub when people come up. And I think being able to offer more value in that building, you've also got to understand how much more energy you need to put into it. And I think being able to deliver your solution there makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So obviously with all this stuff is where do we think that partners can win, right? And so the best way to win is to learn where someone else has won. So maybe tell us a little bit about where the Buddy team has had the most success, but maybe more specifically, sort of what type of wins you guys have had recently.
Yeah, so for us, a few of the key wins that we've had so far, one of the wins that I'm most proud of is a huge golf resort here in the UK, and their requirement was to actually solve a very specific problem that resided within their commercial kitchens. And this was how to make sure that the chefs and the kitchen staff were being more efficient in the way they used the ovens, the cold store rooms and the air extractor fans. You can imagine a summer like we've just had. There were times where chef and kitchen staff were holding cold store door open, to cool
to try and cool themselves down.
But unfortunately, that then starts putting a huge amount of energy. So to be able to monitor these things in a granular way, which they can't do today, and to be able to then display that information in dashboards, so chefs and kitchen staff can very quickly easily see the performance of their kitchen and how small shifts in behaviour can start to improve the overall efficiency of those kitchens. For this was very attractive to them. And this is the prime reason they want to use the solution. There are lots of areas they want to look to deploy it as well, but this was the most critical need initially.
Makes complete sense. As you say, if it gets really, really warm, people want to stay cool. The UK is not exactly set up with air cons everywhere in the kitchens. Why would they be? It doesn't make sense. So then maybe just sort of changing the behaviour, right?
Absolutely.
For the good as well, being able to think more holistically about that.
And things like the ovens being turned on half an hour before they needed to be used. I mean, you wouldn't turn the oven on at 9 in the morning to cook dinner at 6 that evening. So making sure that the chefs were actually turning appliances on when they need them and not too early. Again, these small changes can have a big impact. You
can apply that to some other wins, I suppose, particularly some of the hospitality stuff as well, where there are kitchens always on the go in the restaurants in terms of hospitality as well. No, it makes complete and absolute sense. I think some of the ones from a Pangea perspective where our partners are working on, we are really focusing on the core sectors we mentioned before, particularly our partners who see this as a way to, I think, bring more value to their customers, not just continue selling what they're doing today. I think it's all about how can they bring a further, more sticky solution, which is a long-term solution as well. It's not just about connecting for 12 months and learning about what's going on in the building. It's actually kind of, I suppose the reason why you get a fitness watch is to change your lifestyle. I guess the reason why you would want to partner with Pangea and Buddy to deliver something to the building is to change the behaviour of that building for the long term. So, any other thoughts in terms of the wins and things?
Absolutely. So one of the other areas is theatres and opera houses, which has been quite a surprise to us actually, because you'd think it's quite a niche environment. But again, like hotels and even golf resorts, they have bar areas, they have restaurants. Added to that, they've got dressing rooms that are occupied at times and not occupied at others. So being able to understand what that kind of pattern looks like and making sure that things aren't being left on was critical to some of the theatres we've worked with. Making sure that the food preparation areas are safe and compliant. Making sure that the main auditorium is at a comfortable level for guests and customers coming into view theatre. All things that we've been able to support these theatres with. And interestingly, many of these theatres have a huge push around environmental focus. One of the ones we work with uses a huge wind turbine to be 100% self-sufficient. So we're not actually reducing to help save money in this particular case. That's actually increasing their revenues. The less energy they use, the more revenue they're able to achieve through selling energy back to the grid.
100%. Cool. Well, I think hopefully most of you have learned some good information and also understanding why the partnership is there and where we're going with it. I think from my perspective, for partners listening or anybody interested in building management solutions, but not just that, it's really kind of how you want to change the environment or speak to your clients about being able to do more and more from their existing buildings and being able to take things further in terms of their ESOS compliance, as well as being able to just do a little bit of good for the environment. Please do engage with us, talk with one of your account managers, or if you've seen this for the first time, we've got contact@pangea-group.net where you can send us some mail and we'll sort of pick it up from there. Roland, thank you so much for having the time and coming and see us and give the partners a little bit more insight into what we do. So from here on in, I think, guys, we will talk more about Buddy on a regular basis. We'll be able to showcase more of the wins, and particularly for some of the partners who are doing well right now, we can start to showcase some of theirs in the future as well. Thanks so much for joining us. Dan Cunliffe, Managing Director of Pangea. See you next time.